suddenly China attacked. India wasn't prepared. India required weapons, India required arms, India required ammunition. Israel said, tell us what you need. Israel actually took some weapons and systems out of their inventory, their Air Force inventory, and gave it to India. So a consignment of weapons that was meant for Iran was diverted and sent to India. We all know about the 1971 war and India's spectacular victory over Pakistan and the birth of Bangladesh. But do you know that Israel had a role to play in that war? Israel has always come to India's military assistance whenever we required it. Let's begin with 1971. Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India. Golda Meir was the Prime Minister of Israel. India required weapons, ammunition, a lot of military equipment. We weren't getting it the speed at which we wanted. We weren't getting it from anywhere else. And war clouds were on the horizon. Indira Gandhi reached out to Golda Meir, two very powerful ladies. Israel needed the weapons themselves, but Golda Meir decided India had to be helped. So a consignment of weapons that was meant for Iran was diverted and sent to India. Israel had come to India's assistance. But that's not the only instance where Israel came to India's assistance in combat. Let me take you back to 1962. China attacked India. India had been stabbed in the back. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister, and most people in India were talking about Hindi, Chini, Bhai Bhai and the principles of Panchsheel, and suddenly China attacked. India wasn't prepared. India required weapons, India required arms, India required ammunition. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru reached out to David Ben-Gurion, then the Prime Minister of Israel. And he said, okay, we'll help you. You're a democracy. A democracy needs to be strengthened. And two very powerful democracies. But then Pandit Nehru had a condition. Pandit Nehru said, give me the weapons, send your ships, but do not fly the Israeli flag on your ships when they come to India to supply weapons. And David Ben-Gurion was taken aback. He made one thing very clear. No flag, no weapons. Pandit Nehru relented. The ships came, the weapons came, and they helped India combat China. That was 1962. 1965, Pakistan thought India was weak. India had suffered a setback in India's war against China. Pakistan thought that's the opportunity to exploit and defeat India and take Kashmir by force. So Pakistan launched an attack. Again, India required weapons. This was a situation where neither then Soviet Union nor the United States of America were giving us weapons. What to say of weapons? America wasn't even giving us the grain that we required. You remember, we used to have this lesson in our Hindi books which said Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, a slogan given by then Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri, because we weren't getting grain. If you don't have food to eat, how will you fight a war? And that is the time when Lal Bahadur Shastri gave that slogan, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. The soldiers will fight at the borders, the farmers will work doubly hard and create better produce, more quantity of produce of agricultural products, and they'll help the nation. He also said, if we need to, let's not eat one meal a day and save on some grain. Now that's again a situation when India reached out to Israel and said, we need weapons, we need small arms ammunition, we need mortars, we need artillery ammunition. And Israel said, we'll provide you those weapons, we'll provide you the systems. So 1962, 1965, 1971, one after the other, Israel came to India's assistance each time we required it. Golda Meir, of course, said, do establish diplomatic relationship with us and we must move forward on that. Indira Gandhi could not move forward on that. There was historic hesitation. India was more attached to the Palestinian cause in those times. In fact, if I take you back in history a little, 1947, soon after independence, there was a resolution in United Nations General Assembly, and on the birth of Israel, India was not in favor at that point of time on two nations coming together on that same in that same area side by side. That was the UNGA resolution in 1948. In 1949, only when some other countries recognized Israel did India finally recognize Israel in 1950. But an embassy was opened only in 1992. So look at that long gap. Even though Israel had helped India in 1962, and those letters are now in public domain, letters that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru had written to David Ben-Gurion seeking assistance against China, when India reached out to Israel in 1965, when Indira Gandhi reached out to Golda Meir in 1971, each time Israel came to India's assistance. And it didn't stop after 1971. In fact, India remained very committed to the Palestinian cause. Yasser Arafat was recognized as the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, as the sole representative. And Yasser Arafat anyways had very close association with then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. He used to call her his sister. India was also very invested in the non-aligned movement. In fact, when Indira Gandhi was assassinated in 1984, it is said that Yasser Arafat wept like a child and said, "I've lost my sister." But let me just take you back one more year, 1983. There was an apprehension that Pakistan was building nuclear weapons. At the Kahuta reactor, they were weaponizing very quickly. That intelligence was shared with India. India and Israel, incidentally, RAW, India's Research and Analysis Wing, and Israel's Mossad, they were very thick right from the 1950s, and they cooperated extensively. And Mossad gave India some intelligence about the weaponization of Pakistan's nukes in 1983. Not just that, the information is Israel was willing to bomb Kahuta for us. So Israeli Air Force was to fly its planes and bomb Pakistan's nuclear reactor to ensure that that nascent project would never kick off. So much so, they said, we'll only come to India. We wanted to refuel, Israelis wanted to refuel at Jamnagar. And apparently Indira Gandhi was okay with it at that time. But the information leaked out. And Pakistan was apparently alerted by the CIA, and Pakistan then threatened to bomb Trombay in case India bombed Kahuta. So that project did not finally kick off. But that is how much Israel was invested in India's democracy and in strengthening India. 1999, Pakistan attacked India in Kargil. There were incursions that took place on those Kargil Dras Batalik heights along 150 kilometers of area. Pakistanis came in some places 4 kilometers, some places 5 kilometers, some places 15 to 20 kilometers they came in. And India wasn't aware of it. And remember, 1998 nuclear tests had been done, Pokhran nuclear tests. So there were major sanctions on India. America wasn't giving us weapons and systems. It had blocked the flight of several of our Sea Harrier aircraft, the Sea King helicopters. They were in trouble. There were some restrictions from Russia. Once again, Israel came to India's rescue. Israel said, tell us what you need. As did France, incidentally, but I'll talk about France later. Israel, now Indian fighter jets, the MiG-21s, they flew. MiG-21s, Pakistanis had Stinger missile. They fired a Stinger missile. We lost a MiG-21 and we lost a very brave pilot, Wing Commander Ahuja. Then the Air Force decided that their planes would fly much higher. Now, when your planes fly higher to avoid the Pakistani Stingers, there was a problem. The problem was you're flying at high speeds, very close to the line of control, especially when Prime Minister Vajpayee had taken the decision that you will not cross the LOC. So to pinpoint a target on top of a peak where the bunkers were, your bombs would fall left or bombs would fall right. They were dumb bombs. You needed smart munition. You didn't have them. Israel said, we'll give it to you. Israel actually took some weapons and systems out of their inventory, their Air Force inventory, and gave it to India. Not just that, they flew in their technicians to Gwalior, where the Mirage base is, and they fitted those kits on those 1,000-pounder bombs, those smart kits, laser designators. So you'd lit up the target, the Pakistani posts on Tiger Hill, for example, and then those bombs were fired, and the Pakistanis didn't know, oh my God, they just didn't realize that India was using fighter jets against Pakistan on Kargil Heights. India also didn't know where the Pakistanis had their logistics base, for example. Where were they getting all their weapons and systems together, or their troops together, and launching them? So Israeli military satellites were used to give us all that information. And yet, there was no prime ministerial visit from India to Israel. Prime Minister Narendra Modi took over in 2014. He'd been to Israel as Chief Minister of Gujarat. He knew the strategic significance of that relationship, and he also knew that this relationship wasn't just limited to armed forces or intelligence or strategy. The way Israel had turned around the Negev desert into very fertile land and were producing outstanding agricultural products, India used that drip irrigation. In fact, there are plane roads of farmers from Nagpur who've traveled to Israel to ensure that drip irrigation is used to produce the best possible oranges. So now this is a relationship that, from defense to science and technology to startups to agriculture. You'd recall an iconic picture of Prime Minister Narendra Modi when he visited Israel, became the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Israel in 2017. And he was with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu standing, I think, ankle deep in seawater and desalination. So that is something where, again, Israel has cutting edge technology. So whether that can also be used in India. So India and Israel are now cooperating in every field possible in great equation, people to people. Now, when people ask, is India's relationship with Israel all about politics and religion? No, this is a friendship that goes way deeper. A friend in need is a friend indeed. It's a relationship of two very powerful democracies. It's a relationship where people to people contact. I was there in Israel covering Israel's war on Hamas terror. 7th of October, the terror attack took place. 8th of October, I was there. And then for the next 15, 16 days, I was on ground zero covering these operations. The moment, whether it was an IDF soldier or a police officer or a foreign office officer or the common man on the street, anybody would realize, oh, you're from India. And they would open their home and hearts to you. That is how much they love India. I've told you, facts as I saw them on ground and facts as India has seen since our independence. Many thanks for joining.
For more informative videos like this, keep watching India Today News Mo.